everyone, I'm Samantha, owner of Samantha Mayfair Cakes, and today I'm going to teach you how to make my version of a classic sugar rose. So to get started, we have a bunch of equipment: gum paste, styrofoam ball, rose cutters, foam pads, and I'll kind of talk through all these things as we begin to use them. So first things first, we're going to roll out our gum paste. The gum paste should be super duper thin. You should be able to see through it. Once it's all rolled out, you're going to use cutters 3, 4, 6, and 7 from a 7 cutter set. You're going to cut 5 pieces of the smallest petal, 6 pieces of the size number 4, 5 pieces with the number 6 cutter, and 7 pieces with the number 7 cutter. All these pieces, as I cut them, you'll notice I'm putting them inside these clear plastic sheets. Take 2 of the 5 smallest petals, thin them a little bit with the ball tool. You're gonna grab your toothpick, and in the top left corner, you're gonna pull, kind of roll the toothpick over the top left corner of the petal, and then turn it to the center. After you make those little hooks on the petals, you're gonna put egg white at the base of each. Grab your styrofoam ball, set one petal in the center so that it's pointing up. Then do the same with the other petal. Those 2 curved edges you made, you're going to kind of hook them together, and you'll see that makes sort of a spirally shape. Once you've got your 2 pieces on, take the remaining 3 smallest pieces, thin them out again, and then you're going to take some egg white and put it on the left side only of each one. Find the seam where your first 2 petals overlap, and that's where you're going to place the first petal in the next round of petals. So one petal goes down, and then you'll see only one side is glued. So the side that's open, you're going to take your second petal and slide it under that. Same thing for the third one. And now the third one should overlap the top of the first petal. For this round of petals, you'll see that there are 6 petals here, and we're going to do something a little unusual for the shape, where we thin the petal out and then we're actually going to stretch the top so that it's flat. So the whole petal will be almost a triangle shape. Now you might be thinking, that looks really weird, why are we doing that? But the flat edge actually helps you achieve that really pretty spiral that you see in a classic rose. And you'll notice I'm only working with 2 or 3 petals at a time. And as I finish thinning each one, I'm putting it back in between those plastic sheets to keep it from drying out. If you notice some of them are starting to ruffle a little bit on the edge, that's okay, don't worry. Just take your hand and your fingers and kind of smooth it out over top, and that will help reduce any excess ruffling. So when it's time to apply them, they go on in basically the same way. A little bit of egg white on the bottom left at the pointy end of the petal, and you're going to find a seam where your petals from the previous row had overlapped, and you want all of your petals to kind of be the same height. So take the top of this sort of flat edge you've created and line that up with the point of the petals. So once you've lined up the height of your petals, you're going to take that petal and place it over one of those seams from the previous round. Now one side will not have glue on it, so just kind of open that side up and then take the next petal and slide it in and repeat all the way around until all of your petals are on, and then grab a little bit of glue and tack down all the edges. If you don't have egg whites, or if you prefer using gum glue, that's absolutely fine also. Gum glue is a great egg white alternative. Once all of your petals are on, the edges have been slightly tacked down, give it a little squeeze because you want these petals to be close together but not super tight, and you'll see that they look pretty spirally. Okay, so now it is time to do the first row of petals that look like they're starting to kind of open. So we're gonna thin all of these petals out, but we're not gonna make the top flat like we did for the last round. Thin them out using the ball tool, kind of stretch them, make them bigger, thin the edges, and then each petal is going to be placed in a double-sided rose veiner and press down one really good firm push and then lift it out. For these, I don't put them back in between the plastic because I'm actually going to be curving the edges. So I'm going to grab that little toothpick again and rolling it on the foam pad, I'm going to roll it onto the edge of the petal, pick a corner or a side, doesn't matter, and then roll it toward you. And you can do 2 or 3 rolls or 4 rolls on the petal per petal. It's up to you how much curve you want to give it. I also sometimes like to cut out a little notch in the petal that just adds a little bit of realism. It's also much easier to apply the petals when they're all laid out in front of you and ready to go. So once I finish thinning all of these, I'll put egg white on them and then apply them all in the same way that I have been adding the previous ones. One extra step I like to do here, aside from the veining and the toothpick, is that once the petal is on the ball, on the styrofoam, I like to kind of run my fingers around the sort of bottom 2/3 of it to kind of capture the shape of the ball, because roses have a real specific shape, and if you run your hand or run your thumb or your finger over that ball once the petal is on, it kind of helps round the petal out and makes it look a little bit more real. It adds that sort of really pretty curved indent that roses have. And you'll notice too, once they're on and I've shaped the bottom, I like to go back and I like to fix the tops of the petals also. Sometimes I like to pull it out or bend it back. It's totally up to you. Okay, so for the last round of petals, it's pretty similar to the previous round. We're gonna thin them, we're gonna vein them. However, before we do the toothpick, I like to use my Dresden tool and kind of drag it around the edge. It kind of makes the edge bend and curl just a little bit. Then do the toothpick for that sort of bigger, more dramatic curl. So instead of putting these back in the plastic sheet or letting them dry kind of on the foam pad while I work, I'm actually placing the petals onto an egg-shaped former, and that's going to help add that sort of belled out curvy bottom I was talking about that I was using my fingers to create for the previous round. You can do the same thing with your fingers for the last round. I just find that because there's so many petals, having that petal sort of dry in that shape just speeds the process along. Then you're going to attach all these petals the same way that we've been doing, with a little bit of egg white on the bottom of the left side and then a dash on the other side once it's on to kind of help tack it down. To dry, I like to take a little tinfoil former and then slide that up around the base. That just helps the petals from flip-flopping around. And then I use these squishy foam inserts from Wilton. So using these little foam inserts allow me to manipulate the petals and create movement where I want, so that it looks like the rose is blooming or the rose has just a little bit of life to it. And then it's gonna go, once I've kind of gotten this situated how I like it, then it goes to dry. So next I'll work on the calyx, which is the little green piece at the base of the rose. So to do the calyx, you're gonna get a different foam pad. This foam pad has little holes in it. You're gonna take a little ball of gum paste, press it onto the medium-sized hole, and then roll out the paste over the hole. Grab your calyx cutter, position it over the center so that that nub is right in the middle of the calyx. Press it out, and then grab your calyx, put it on the foam pad, and using your ball tool, really pull out the edges and make them really thin. And then I like to take a scissor and kind of snip the edges. Then using my Dresden tool, I will drag over those small pieces, and that kind of helps them curl back toward themselves. Put a little bit of egg white on the center of the calyx, and then holding kind of the nubbin end, slide it up so that it touches the rose. Now that the calyxes are all attached to the roses, those are drying, I'm gonna work on the leaves. So grab your groove board, roll the rest of your green gum paste out into a log and kind of press it across the grooves, and then using a rolling pin, roll the gum paste over the board. You'll know it's thin enough when you can start to see the grooves and the lines through the gum paste on the board. And then take it off and using your rose leaf cutters, cut out your leaves, and then insert a 26 gauge wire dipped in egg white into the leaf. Thin the edges with a ball tool, press it between a rose leaf veiner, and then let it dry, either on some bumpy foam or standing up, or whatever you got going on. Finally, it's time to dust, and this is the fun part. So what I like to do is I never use only one shade of petal dust. So I wait till my flowers are totally dry and apply all the color then. So I'm gonna take the hot pink, the salmon, and the blush and blend those all together, and I'm gonna use that for my base color all over the rose. I like to concentrate some extra color in the center to make it look a little darker, and then hit the edges with some color also. It really helps any veining pop a lot. Then below I've got green, different shades of green, brown, some sepia, and I'll mix those together and I'll use that to brush along any sort of notches that I've created. That really helps them stand out and makes the rose look really real. And then I'll do the same on the calyxes with that blend of colors, dust the calyxes and the leaves, concentrating some of the darker color in any of the creases or any nooks and crannies. And that's it. That is how you make my classic sugar rose. Give it a try. See you next time. Bye.